Let me try and answer some of your questions. Ashish Mehta, you ask, what does a student have to do or observe or learn while he is sitting with a practicing homeopath during his internship period or for practical experience? What exactly he should learn or observe during this time? Is it the patient or the homeopath, or the dialogue between the patient and the homeopath, or should he refer from books after the experience? Please elaborate. It's a very good question, and I think it has even more significance now with the academy that has been set up here in Bombay, where the experienced homeopath is taking cases and a group of students is watching this whole process live. And what should they really observe or learn while they are watching this process? I think that homeopathy is an art. The practice is an art. Though homeopathy is founded on solid principles, but the practice remains an art. And I think it's very important to observe how the homeopath, he finds his way through the case, because every patient needs a different approach. This depends upon the level of experience the patient is at, maybe at level 2, level 3, level 4. Each one will require a different approach. Also, on which kingdom he belongs to, it will need a different approach. And also eliciting characteristic symptoms and bringing out the individuality of the patient so clearly that there is no doubt what is in front of you. This is the art. And how does the homeopath face this challenge? How does he, with the patient in front of him, he asks him a question, he gets a response. What is going to be his next move? How does he maneuver his way finely? We say in Tamil, you must go into something like a needle into a banana, so smooth that patient also doesn't know what's happening here. And yet the characteristic symptoms keep popping out. The individuality of the patient is revealed. His innate energy pattern and his reaction patterns are seen, and the commonality of it observed throughout the case. This art should be observed. This art needs human understanding. It requires technical skill. It requires scientific knowledge. And all this come together in the case taking process. It's a tact. There's also diplomacy involved. There is humor involved. There is sympathy and empathy involved. This communication between the experienced homeopath and the patient is what needs to be observed. How does he go ahead? With the response of the patient, what is going to be his next move? How does he go into the symptoms? How does he bring out that which is strange or peculiar? Everybody has anxiety, everybody has fright, everybody has grief. But how does he bring out the peculiar nature of the patient's reaction? That is what really needs to be observed. And then What does he do with this information? How does he use it? How does he use it in terms of traditional homeopathy, maybe the rubrics, maybe the keynotes, maybe the materia medica, the provings, and on the other hand, how does he understand this in terms of kingdoms, miasms and levels, and how does he bring this knowledge together in an integrated way? How does he utilize the information? How does he talk and reassure the patient? This whole thing is the art of homeopathy. And so this is what the student needs to observe. And he has to, if he really wants to learn from somebody, he has to actually place himself into the shoes of the homeopath and start looking the way the homeopath looks, through his eyes, through his brain, through his mind, through his perception. After a few cases, he should start even to be able to predict how the case is going to proceed, what is going to be asked next. Given what the patient said, what's going to be the next question? Of course, it's not going to come in a short time, it's going to take time. This is exactly what I did with the preceptors that I apprenticed with. Phatak, Kanjilal, Sarabhai, Kopikar, my father, so many people. And each one used a different style, a different instrument. And so you start to learn the different styles and the different instrument, and yet coming to the same goal or the same target, which is bringing out the individuality of the patient, finding the remedy. Dr. Sarabhai used a lot of card repertory. My father used the traditional repertories. Kanjilal used materia medica. Kopikar used Allen's keynotes. Phatak used his own repertory and materia medica. Each one wielded his instrument with such skill and dexterity. That is what needs to be observed. And just like the melody may be one, but the instruments that you can create that melody are different. You can create the same melody with a piano, or with a guitar, or with a sitar, or with a veena, whatever. In the same way, you can find the remedy through one or the other or the other or the other. But if you have all these instruments available to you, and if you can learn the skill of using all of them, you are the master. And of course, what is very, very important is that when you observe the homeopath taking a case and finding a remedy, you have to go home and look into the books, into the sources from which he has come. So he has selected the remedy on a repertorial rubric, on a materia medica symptom, on a proving. You have to go deep within and read those exact sources. So not only you see what he sees, but you start knowing what he knows. That enhances your learning from this person. And I really think the academy is a great place to have this kind of observation of the expert homeopath and learn from that art. You also ask, what is your experience about the effect of unprejudiced homeopathic case taking on the life of a homeopath? That's also a very good question. Very difficult to answer actually, because I think the effect is subtle and not so black and white. But if I were to put it into words, I would say 2-3 things happen. One is you start to become a silent observer of phenomena. When you start becoming a silent observer of phenomena in the other person, naturally it translates into becoming a silent observer of all phenomena, whether it is political, social, economical, world phenomena. You just observe. You become an observer, a witness. And when you become a witness, without any theorizing, without any interpretation, different things can be seen in a pattern. What is happening today socially, economically, or in different politically, in different fields of life, will show the same pattern, because the same energy is expressed in all these areas. This is a period of huge turmoil and huge changes, big changes. Everything is changing. There is a kind of instability here now. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. Economically, look at the stock markets, look at the political situation, look at the social situation, look at the spiritual or the philosophical situation. The stability that was there 40-50 years ago, everything was so set, is completely changing. This is the pattern you can observe. You don't have to give a reason, you just observe. So you become an observer of phenomena in other people, in the world, and in yourself. You start looking within yourself in a way. Not blaming the external world for your situation, but seeing who you are. What's your pattern? Not intellectually, not theoretically, but observing really, experientially, which is also in a way called meditation. So you become a meditator. And the other thing that happens is that when you see so many people with so many different kinds of patterns, with so many different kinds of perceptions of reality, you come to the conclusion that there is no objective reality at all. There is nothing called truth. There is only what you perceive. So even your own truth, your own perception also is taken with a pinch of salt. You understand that it's your perception and there is no absolute truth at all. That kind of calms you down in a way. So this is just a hint of what this kind of witnessing can do. But what really it does, it cannot be really expressed in words. You ask again, if a homeopath experiences a meditative state while case taking, is it necessary for him to practice any other meditation techniques? I think that the whole process of case taking being such a meditative experience, and if this is translated into observing the world phenomena and observing within you, itself is meditation. And hopefully this process becomes continuous. It doesn't simply happen when you sit down and close your eyes. It becomes your entire philosophy of living. The case-taking process becomes the philosophy of life. The aphorism of Organon, the individualizing examination of a case of disease, demands of the healing artist nothing but freedom from prejudice and sound senses, attention in observing and faithfulness in tracing the picture of disease. Does not only remain a method of case taking, it becomes a method of living, which is meditative. But you are also free to follow any meditative technique which has to do with observing, with looking. You can observe your breath, you can observe your mind state, you can observe your physical sensations. A special technique called Vipassana has the same philosophy. Observe, observe, observe. So the homeopath is free to follow it, no problem. It's all the same thing. You call it by one name or the other. So sometimes techniques do help us in following a certain meditative process. If there is a certain technique and not just left random, it may help some people. It's very individual. Personally, what I do is simply, with one eye focused on the outside world, the other eye is constantly observing the phenomena of the self. And it's almost a constant process. So deep within, I am in touch with a silent part of me. And I know that in that silence is the continuum, is me, the real self, the permanent self. While phenomena are temporary and come and pass, whether it be a physical or a mental phenomena. To be aware of that at most time itself is a meditative process.